Welcome to Ghostly Gazette. Today we share four spine-chilling real-life stories of ghostly presence, unexplained footsteps, mysterious boot prints, and a child's eerie encounter. What would you do if you faced these mysteries? Are you ready to be haunted? One winter, I came back to my on-campus apartment shortly after a snowstorm. Fresh snow about 1.5 feet deep was covering every exposed part of the ground, including right up to the back door of the apartment. It was a townhouse-style place. The ground floor included a general living space, the kitchen, and a dining room with a large window. My roommate was out of town that week, so it was just me in the place. And I had a habit of making sure the back light was on at night, because we'd had people come up and knock at the back door before. When I walked over to flip on that light, I spotted a pair of very fresh boot prints just standing and facing the dining room window, and a greasy face print like someone had been peering in. There were no prints coming or going, and they hadn't been filled in by the snow. I called and asked a friend to stay over that night, and never did find out who had been out there. It happened a couple more times over the winter, too. Before we were married, my husband and I lived together in a tiny studio apartment in an old 1930s building. Since we're both big horror fans, we decided one night to finally check out the show American Horror Story for the first time. We ended up marathoning half of the first season, watching late into the night, and finally going to bed around 2 a.m. Of course, we were thoroughly creeped out and on edge by the time we went to bed, but in a good way. About 2 hours later, we were abruptly woken up by the sound of loud TV static. Somehow, while we were sleeping, the TV had gotten switched on. I was, of course, very startled by the loud noise, but I was especially confused because this was one of those TVs that automatically muted itself whenever there's static. You would have to intentionally go out of your way to turn the volume up in order to hear the static. I quickly got out of bed to turn it off, and when I got over to the TV, I looked to my right and noticed that the door to our apartment was wide open. Since this was a studio, the door to our bedroom led directly into the main hallway of the building. I personally don't believe in ghosts, but given the choice between something paranormal versus an unidentified stranger coming into our apartment while we slept to turn on our TV, I'm really hoping it was paranormal. We'd never met anyone else who lived in the building, so it's unlikely that it was someone we knew pulling a prank. What I can't explain is, if it was a person, how did the culprit disappear so quickly? Since we woke up the instant the TV static came on, you would think we would have at least seen someone dashing out the door. We searched through the apartment, and there was no one there. In the middle of winter, when my kids were 3 and 6 years old, we drove up to the mountains in Colorado to ski for the weekend. We had Airbnb'd a row house that had been built around 1900 to house miners. We arrived a bit late on that Friday evening, and as we unloaded the car, my mind was on feeding the kids dinner and getting them to bed soon since they had ski lessons at 8:30 the next day. But when I walked into the Airbnb, the hair on my neck stood up straight. It was abundantly clear to me there was a ghostly presence inside the house. I didn't want to scare the kids, so I decided to ignore the feeling and proceed with the evening as planned. We got takeout and put the kids to sleep in the front room together. All evening I felt intently watched. After the kids were settled, I told my husband, "There's a ghost here. He's right over there. He's not malicious, just curiously watching us." My husband reacted with disbelief and a bit of mockery, so I dropped it. We got up the next morning with a rush to get out the door for ski school without much thought about the ghost. When we got back to the row house that evening, walking inside had a totally different energy than the night before. I told my husband, he isn't here now. Once again, he scoffed at me. A few minutes later, our 3-year-old ran up to us and asked, "Where's the man who lives here, Mommy?" "He's not here." I asked her what she meant. She said, "The man whose house this is." the one in yellow with long white hair. He came and talked to me in our room last night. He's gone today. Where is he? I used to live in an apartment building that was converted from an old hospital at the turn of the 19th century. They basically blew out all the walls, separating the individual patient rooms and made them into long, oddly shaped apartments. The original doors were still there, old brass handles and all, leading into the main hallway of the building. They were just nailed shut and painted over to be the same color as the walls. So many things happened in this place that it's hard to pick just one. But one of the most memorable moments was something that happened in the middle of the night. Footsteps in the hallway at night were a regular occurrence in this place, to the point that I had friends that refused to stay the night. I would always sleep with my door shut because I didn't want to see whatever the hell was walking up and down the hall. I know you're wondering, I was a very broke college student, and the rent was dirt cheap otherwise. I would have been out of their way before this. One night at around 3 in the morning, I was woken up from a dead sleep by the sound of what I can only describe as furious knocking on my bedroom door. It basically sounded like someone was standing on the other side, beating their fists against the wood trying to get in. They were smacking the door hard enough that I could see the clothes I had hanging on the back of the door shaking with every blow. It didn't last that long, probably only a few seconds, but I was absolutely terrified. It stopped just as suddenly as it started, and I called out to see if anyone was there. No answer. Finally, I just had to know. Even though I was basically shitting my pants, I opened the door to see if anything was there. The hallway was empty. It makes my palms sweat still, just to think about it. I have no explanation for it. Thanks for watching our chilling tales. Which story sent shivers down your spine the most? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more spine-tingling content. Until next time, stay curious and keep an eye out for the unexplained.